Moruga is rich in history. It's also the home to the Americans, who are African American refugees that settled across Trinidad after the American War of Independence in 1812. Known for the agricultural skills and knowledge they began to cultivate. To this day, their legacy remains on the rice hills of Moruga.
All right, today we're in Moruga. We're at the Vista Dorado estate where we're going to talk about Moruga Hill Rice. Yes, Moruga Hill Rice. You may be asking yourself, what is Moruga Hill Rice? But we're here with Mark Forgini, who's going to share with us the process and what they have been doing here today. I mean, Mark, tell me, Moruga Hill Rice, why get involved?
Well, welcome, first of all, Otto, to the most unique part of Trinidad and Tobago.
Indeed.
Moruga is the first place in the Western Hemisphere that the European nations met the old world, and because of that we have a lot of ancient history and traditions here.
Yes.
The hill rice is Oryza glaberrima. Our variety came from West Africa with the Americans, and the Americans were not all slaves. There were some who were freed slaves,
yes,
but there were a number who were skilled mercenaries, craftsmen, and they preserved their food from Africa through America and then into Moruga. And because of that, they were able to preserve this ancient grain, Oryza glaberrima, which is today called Moruga Hill Rice. It is a special rice because it grows completely on dry land. What we have done, we have mechanized the production process. From the harvesters that you're going to see in the field, the seeding system, the harvesting, the electrical dryer in the background, the silos, the mill. Once we cut and harvest and thresh our rice, it never touches the ground. So we ensure that the quality of the product, all the iron, all the fiber, all the calcium that is a natural benefit of that rice stays in the grain until it comes out here, goes into the computer sorter and is bagged for the consumer.
So tell me, people would ask, what's the difference between Moruga Hill Rice and what we see on the supermarket shelf? Although Moruga Hill Rice is on the supermarket shelf, what is the difference? Yes.
It is. So Moruga Hill Rice, when we tested it for the first time in its 202-year history, I tested it at Kariri. We were astonished to find that it has the highest percentage of iron, fiber, zero sugars, and is an all-natural grain. That means that the rice you're eating, it's more like a carbohydrate, like a provision.
Wow.
It doesn't give you the sugars that Oryza sativa, white rices and brown rices inherently have. And the high fiber means that it digests slowly.
Yes.
So persons who are diabetic, persons who are anemic, this combination of nutrition properties gives you the medicinal value slowly over time and helps your internal organs to heal.
Tell me something. Why rice? Why get involved in rice? I mean, how do you wake up in the morning and say, I want to plant rice? Hill rice.
Well, so that story is an interesting story. I'm really a merchant Navy deck officer. I trained in the UK, did 5 years at Southampton University. That's my formal training. But I grew up here on my grandfather's estate, working cocoa, figs, piwa, and my grandmother, Shala Chacha, Mama Nin, always planted hill rice. It was a tradition in our family, but it was planted by hand. When my father had a stroke in 2008, another friend of his from Presentation College, he said to me, get some of that hill rice and get your father to eat the rice. It will help put more oxygen into his brain. And I started looking, came back to Moruga to find that everybody, my cousins, my uncles, had all dropped off production because it was so labor intensive. And I swore that I would find a way to make it simpler and more efficient. So that quest started. I was on a seismic project in Suriname, and I just happened to meet one of the top five persons in the world. He works for United Nations. researching dryland rice. The United Nations is looking at dryland rice because they know in the future water is going to be very scarce.
Sure.
So foods that can be produced with very, very little water or ambient rainfall alone will become the norm. So he came back here and he saw my early attempts at mechanizing, and he gave me some other ideas and put me in contact with a professor from Japan. I flew up to Japan and I was able to have deeper conversations with them about the hill rice, the product, and what it could do. So it was these series of events that led me from waking up one morning to say, I'm going to mechanize hill rice, to where we are today. And it's still being improved. I'm still improving on it.
What is happening now in regards to the people who would be looking in and hearing all these health benefits of this Moruga Hill Rice at Vista Dorado Estate? Where can it be found? Another question to add to that is, how long does the process take?
With us, the process from the field to packaging takes 2 days. With our electrical systems, with the harvester, first of all, we can harvest a field in 2 hours, an entire acre. And then we dry those 22 bags in 2 to 3 hours in our electrical dryer. And it steps down the moisture content to the SP1, at which point we transfer it to the silos, and then it can store safely for up to 2 years. That's another amazing feature of the grain. The grain can stay properly, naturally inert with all the health benefit for 2 years at ambient temperature. But because of the demand, we normally mill it within a week. And then what we send out, we send fresh to the supermarkets every fortnight, fresh packed Moruga Hill Rice. We are in Tobago, in R.T. Moore's Head, in Penny Savers. We're in 52 supermarkets in Trinidad, and we're online, www.vistadoradoestates.com. Anyone, when they see this inspiring story anywhere over the world, we can deliver directly to you via e-commerce.
The question that people would ask is this rice indigenous only to Moruga, or someone in Pinal, San Fernando, any part of the country can grow this rice? Why is it just indigenous to Moruga?
That's a very good question, Otto. There are 2 aspects to that question. The first aspect is the history. When the Americans came here, they came to the Moruga area. They met the Warao people, and the Warao people taught them some other agricultural methods. The 2 communities bonded, and the rice was able to flourish. It transformed, I believe, right, from meeting what the Warao people had as a bird seed. And that helped it transform into what is today 5 varieties.
Okay.
What we know from the science, the red color, the iron content of the rice, is determined by the iron in the soil, which is unique to the Moruga clays. The Moruga clays stretch from Guaguayari in the east all the way to Icacos Point in the west, and a bit north up to Tabaquite. So we're pretty certain that within that geographical area, the rice will uptake the nutrition and have the same nutrition profile and flavor profile as it is in Moruga. What I do know too, from talking to persons at the Namdevco Farmers Market, is that during World War II, the colonial government had this rice planted in Lopino, in Aruca Valley, and in Diego Martin Valley. I met a woman who was a child when Moruga Hill Rice seed was taken to Blue Basin and planted over 100 acres to provide food for the nation during the tough times of World War II. So it will grow, it will bear, but it will not have the same nutrition profile as it does on the Moruga clays that have the locked up iron.
Would you encourage other persons to get involved in a project like this if they see this and they're sort of inspired by, hey, could I do this as well? Would you encourage other people to get involved?
Well, Otto, we already are. We have associate farmers in our association, Kadir and Farial Mohammed from Barakpur, the Charters from St. Mary's, Telesfords, the Frasers, a young man, Jean-Marc Amy, Nikki Lakatu, they're opening up at 20 acres in Dennis Trace. So we have 12 other association groups who are using this mechanized system to produce high quality, nutritious, affordable food. So yes, Further, our research with University of the West Indies and UTT, we've developed a poultry feed from the waste.
Oh, okay.
So now we are actually able, with the hill rice and warao corn, to produce an all local, all natural poultry feed. We're able to grow broilers, guinea birds, hybrid chickens, and produce clean, non-antibiotic, non-hormone treated poultry meat.
Yes,
So
indeed.
it's organic meat.
That sounds really, really, really interesting to see happening. All right, so we are here at Vista Dorado Estate in Moruga, and we are now going to go to the next step where we're going to see Mark and his team work on the estate, on the fields. Okay. So what we are doing here, Mark, I mean, we have these.
So that's a good question. What we're doing actually, Otto, is we're selecting the grain for next crop's planting. So we would normally go through the field and look for the biggest heads. See how these heads are nice and long? That's what we're looking for. And that's going to give you a good planting material for the next crop.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, that variety you have here, this is a Bongo Toffee variety. This here is a Bongo Farina long beard. And you see the
Okay,
golden beard on it?
There's a difference.
Yes.
There's actually a difference. Yes.
Yeah, you can see it. You see the golden shower?
Yes.
And this is a natural preventative to birds eating the rice.
Seriously,
That's one of the reasons why we don't need to use chemicals.
it looks like an insect.
Well, this long beard, birds can't swallow it.
Oh, okay,
Yeah?
okay.
Whereas the Bongo Toffee, birds love this. But because this is close to a house, it's harder for them to come and eat.
Interesting.
Yeah?
is easier to harvest with.
Same.
I'm in it for the love, cause love it needs to touch it. You're pressing on my buttons, babe, let me tell you something. I'm in it for the love, cause love it needs to touch it. You're pressing on my buttons, babe, let me tell you something. I'm in it for the love. I'm in it for the love. I'm in it for the love. I'm in it for the love.
Alright, Mike here with Mark, and we got the full experience. Well, I got the full experience for the first time of actually coming on a harvester and see the process of harvesting rice.
A hill rice adapted harvester.
Hill rice adapt. So this wasn't originally designed for harvesting rice?
No, it was the top part. I designed the undercarriage and the rollover cage, and we built it here in Trinidad so this could work on hills up to 15 degrees incline.
Oh wow.
Specially adapted for going on these hills. As you see, we're on undulating hilly land, and so these harvesters are designed for that.
Why plant the rice on the hills?
Well, right. So traditionally rice, it was thought that you had to use flat lagoon areas and thousands of gallons of water. As you can see, we are growing the rice on dry land on the hills.
Yeah.
So if you can open up hills for multi-cropping production, as we did here with the rice, with orange trees, with coconut, with corn, we intercropped corn as well here. You can use more land that would normally be left for forest alone, for food production. And with our agroecological system, as you saw, what the harvester does is separates out the rice grain and only leaves a little bit of grass. Then when we put this in our dryer, the dryer removes the last bits of grass, and it's pure dried rice that goes into the silos.
So it's easier for your process.
It's easier for a process and it's safer for the environment.
How important is the environmental factors to producing your rice for you as
Mike,
Mark?
it's critical for me. I'm trying to get more of our people to understand that for us to produce from the earth, we don't have to kill the earth. We can continue to sustain. I've been planting this field for 10 years with hill rice, and consistently getting 15 to 20 bags out of this acreage. So if we use systems that foster the nematodes, foster the birds, foster the bees, pollinators, the bats at night, it may not look as clean as what some other people recommend with chemical use, but it's better for your field, it's better for your long-term farm use, it's better for your long-term production.
I remember when you were speaking to Otto, you did a lot of research before you get to this point.
Yes, we did. And my father, who had studied at McGill University and majored in biology and chemistry and was then production manager at UZ in St. Madeleine, he had done a lot of research into not only the rice, but using the waste materials from rice, sugarcane, corn production to turn into other products.
As we see with this COVID-19 pandemic, we're being put in a position that we need to be sustainable.
Yes.
How important is it that we learn to produce sustainable food like what you're doing with your rice?
It's critical. This COVID pandemic has taught us that the supply chains that we had grown accustomed to, that we were taught we only need to import food, we need to import feed, it's not true, and it cannot sustain itself. We have to have our own capacity for primary food production and value-added food and our own feed and our own animal and livestock production. That is real national security when we can feed everyone in our country.
You were speaking to Otto earlier on, and I can't remember if you said it or not, but maybe you could reiterate for the audience who might be now tuning in. How often do you get to reap crops from your land, and how often do you plant your land?
That's a good question, and we'll go into it in a little more detail. We can do 2 rice crops a year from the same field. We have silk fig growing on the borders. Those are every month. We have coconut, Chinese coconut, and the Creole nut. Creole nuts are for making coconut milk. The Chinese nuts are for sale as water nuts. We have both Portugals and oranges in between, in layers, in lanes inside the field. Those come in once a year. So in the same acre, you have 4 or 5 income streams. Some are monthly, some are quarterly, some are annually. But from the same acreage, you're always getting income. So as a farmer, this model is sustainable. The consumer then gets, because now I have a predictable income base, I can offer a stable price to the consumer. So the consumer doesn't have the highs and troughs when, if it was only one crop and there was a mistake with that crop, then the farmer has to either hike his prices or drop supply completely.
And you were saying that the iron content in the soil is a very important factor.
Yes, it is. The Moruga clays hold the natural iron, and then the rice takes that natural iron from the soil and accumulates it into the grain. So people who are anemic, people who are diabetic, they get the benefit of this rice because it's a natural iron producer. So it works within your body to help your system hold on and transmit more oxygen. If your hemoglobin gets enough iron and your hemoglobin is strong, then you get more oxygen transferred for your same blood and body mass.
Just to give a little context, when Otto told me we come in Moruga to see hill rice farming, I really didn't expect to be on a tractor or a harvester. I didn't really expect I'd be wearing wrong shoes if you could see Trinidad and Tobago. But this has been a very interesting experience.
I'm glad you're enjoying it, Mike.
As I go to wrap the interview now, what are your words of advice for other young farmers out there who maybe want to get into farming but don't have the process, the direction, or even the access?
I would say that there's a tremendous wealth of resources that are underreported and not known to many young people. UTTs, biosciences, agriculture, food technology, they run excellent short courses. University of the West Indies, the School of Veterinary Medicine, they do outreach. The Ministry of Agriculture, very, very underutilized. They have great training sessions. The outreach officers are often very knowledgeable, and if they don't know the exact thing, they can get you. So the point I'm trying to make is don't just go and read it from a book. go out and talk to people who are practicing in the field, get advice, get guidance. Come and have a chat with us at Vista Dorado Estates. There's this system, there's the traditional system, and there are other models. You can incorporate Benin, you can incorporate Warao corn, and people can get into value add. Every farmer doesn't have to do every product. If you do part of your supply chain and then you go into value add, you can do other value added products, combining two things.
So we have to go back to the kind of cooperative thinking
Yes,
we had
we
long ago.
Yes, we do.
You know? Well, I mean, I know that was my final question, but my final question. I grew up in Warrenville, Caroni area,
Right.
and I always used to see these little things, and I thought they were birdseed. I didn't realize they were rice. So it's very interesting because when I saw the fields, I was like, that's birdseed, that's not rice.
This is the best quality rice in the world. So your bird seed in Warrenville, Carney, was actually the best quality rice in the world.
Well, Mark, thanks for being here on InspireTT. I mean, you've definitely inspired me because even the simple thing as a bird seed, knowing that there's rice,
Yes.
growing up long time, it's very interesting. It was a very interesting segment. I hope those who watched it got some new and pertinent information. And we encourage those who may be thinking about farming, as Mark said, it's not as hard as you probably think. And see more bird seed here, right?
Glad to show you, Mike.
But as I was saying, to those out there who may be inspired to start farming, as Mark said it, go and try it. You may fail, but that's all part of the learning process. There are a lot of information out there, and we have a nice rich land here in Trinidad and Tobago
Very rich.
that we
very
could
fertile.
use to be sustainable. Thank you for joining us here on InspireTT. Michael Ramsing, Mark, and Otto behind the camera. Thanks, Otto.
Hope I inspired a lot of you young people out there today.
Take care from us.
We fell into a mess more that you started out to face it. My heart went off like crazy. I felt my breath was taken. We were about to make it.
Slip and slide.
Can't get them kind of thing in Port of Spain, you know.
Yeah.
Walk in the street and get a Portugal. Here you go, Mr. Carrington. And Mr. Mike.
Break, boy.
Right.
Otto, I think we take it a break.
Fresh fruit, straight off the tree.